Welcome back to the Joyride. This is the Rusty Miso, and I deeply apologize for what I'm about to do to it.
The center's over here.
Alright, so now that this board has been sufficiently destroyed, let's talk about it. You might remember Mason and Coco Ho riding this board in last year's electric acid surfboard test, and they basically said that riding it was so easy it was like cheating. Electric acid is supposed to be about testing these sort of left field designs that are maybe difficult to ride, and this one kind of did not fit the bill in that sense. They got on and they said it basically felt like a shortboard, even though they were riding it as a 2+1. My board has a 5-fin setup, so I can get really weird. I could go thruster, quad, twin, 2+1, whatever. I'm gonna try a few different things, see how they work out, but I'm pretty sure we're gonna be able to find a sweet spot for this board. And if you look at this board, I think you can probably understand why. It's just a really flat, a little bit wide, not super thick, small wave board. And you know what they say, the worse the paint job, the better the board goes. So I think this board's gonna go pretty darn well. Let's go find out. Alright, so first session on the Miso is done, and I'm happy to report that the old adage remains true. Shit paint job, good board. I had so much fun out there. I started out on a quad, and I haven't ridden a quad in a really long time actually. And for my first wave, I was like, oh my god, why do I not do this more often? It just allows you to move from rail to rail so nicely, and when you get a little groove going, it just feels like you're flowing so well. It does have its downsides though. There were a few times where backside, when I would go for a longer bottom turn, it would kind of get stuck and feel a little bit tracky, like I couldn't then make that last little swivel up to the lip. So eventually I came in, I switched to a twin fin just to try something different out, see how it felt. And when I got on the twin, it was like somebody had flicked one of those little door stopper things and it just felt like it was going like that back and forth the entire time. I think the reason for that is that when you have like a 5-fin setup and something that's not designed specifically for a twin fin, the side boxes are further up on the board, and the further up your twin fins are, the looser it's gonna be. So I definitely had a bit of that going on. I am desperate to get this board on a wave with more of an open face. I really want to get out and try to do like some longer carves and connect turns a bit more. This was a really fun little beach break, but it was mostly like one turn, maybe fit 2 turns in. And I'm gonna try out a set of thrusters in my next session. And we'll try to decide if this board is really meant for a thruster or a quad. And come on, you have to admit, the paint job doesn't look quite as bad with wax over it.
Beauty is everywhere.
So we decided to test the Miso out in a couple different conditions. First, we surfed this sort of reef break / beach break left, and then we went out to a little slabby outcropping. At the left, it was interesting. On the bigger waves, I definitely felt like the board lacked drive and it felt a little bit out of control, but on the mid-sized ones, it was really fun. It got really tight and loose up in the pocket. It felt like it just had this sort of kinetic energy to it. Like I really liked the way it was sort of zipping through turns and exploding out of the lip. Then we took it out to this little right reef, and it was probably the best board I could imagine for out there because it was backwashy and bumpy, and some sections would stand up and others would flatten out, and somehow this board handled it all really well. Like I was in a couple barrels where they sort of flared at the end and it felt like the floor dropped out from under me and the board just found itself right under my feet. And then out on the open face, there were these really tight pockets that you could sort of fit your board in, and it was finding them every single time. It felt like I could just place the board, fit my turn in, and then get out before the wave either completely flattened out or dropped out underneath me. So for the last 2 sessions, I threw in the DHD thruster set. This is pretty much as neutral a fin as you can imagine. They've got a bitter rake, which I like in all my fins, and just a medium flex, no real foil on the inside, just a really straightforward thruster set. Something that I'd throw in any sort of shortboard that I was gonna go out in average to fun conditions. They definitely felt like a slightly slower option compared to the twin and quad sets that I used, but they compensated for that with a little extra hold and a nice pivot out of the lip, which I really liked. I hesitate to use the term all-arounder for any surfboard because the idea that a board can work in all conditions is pretty asinine, but the truth of the matter is this board worked in small waves, in medium-sized waves, in fat waves, in hollow waves. It worked as a quad, kind of worked as a twin, and it definitely worked as a thruster as well. So I'm really, really impressed by the Miso. I think that it's a board that you could get and trust in, most everyday conditions. And I apologize again to Rusty and anyone watching this for desecrating this beautiful surfboard with my artwork, but I guess it all worked out in the end.